The silence after the battle was complete. Where moments before space had been filled with explosions and weapons fire, now there was only darkness and slowly drifting debris. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the Incheon and looked out. At the aftermath of the destruction, 200 alien warships had been reduced to scattered pieces of metal and plastic. The Third Fleet of the Vulcan Confederation no longer existed. Not a single enemy vessel remained intact. Not a single alien survivor floated in an escape pod. "Battle damage report," Hyunwoo said quietly. "No damage to report, sir," replied Chief Engineer Min Ho over the communication system. "All systems operating normally. Shield generators at full capacity. Weapon systems ready for continued operations." Lieutenant Commander So Young looked up from her tactical station. "Sir, sensor sweep shows no remaining enemy vessels. All hostile. Contacts have been eliminated. Any escape pods or lifeboats?" "None detected, sir. No survivors." Hyunwoo nodded. This was as it had to be. Protocol 7 left no room for mercy or second chances. The aliens had seen human military technology in action. They had witnessed the true capabilities of a human warship. That knowledge could not be allowed to return to their empire. "Lieutenant, Tae-min," Hyunwoo said to his communications officer, "send a full battle report to Earth Command. Include all sensor data and tactical analysis." "Yes, sir." Message transmitted. The response from Earth came back within minutes. Captain Hyunwoo read it carefully, then looked up at his crew. "New orders from Command," he announced. "We are to proceed to the Vulcan home system and deliver a message to their government." Medical Officer Young-soo had been quietly observing the bridge crew during the battle. Now he stepped forward. "Sir, permission to speak?" "Go ahead, Doctor." The crew performed admirably during the engagement. No signs of psychological stress or combat fatigue. However, I recommend we monitor everyone carefully over the next few days. Destroying an entire fleet, even an enemy fleet, can have delayed psychological effects. Captain Hyunwoo appreciated the doctor's concern. "Understood. Keep me informed of any issues." But Hyunwoo was not worried about his crew. These men and women had volunteered for deep space duty, knowing they might face situations like this. They were trained professionals who understood the realities of interstellar warfare. Navigator Yoonji was already plotting a course to the Vulcan home system. "Sir, based on the alien ship's navigation data, I can trace their route back to their point of origin. Estimated travel time, 3 days at maximum speed." "Make it so," Hyunwoo ordered. The Incheon turned away from the debris field and accelerated toward the edge of the solar system. Within hours, the mighty warship had jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving behind only scattered wreckage as evidence of what had happened. 3 days later, the human ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Vulcan home system. Chief Science Officer Dong-hyun immediately began scanning the area with long-range sensors. "Sir," he reported, "I detect a heavily populated star system. One main world with approximately 12 billion inhabitants. Multiple space stations and orbital defense platforms." "Defense platforms?" Hyunwoo asked. "Yes, sir. Approximately 50 weapon platforms in orbit around the main planet. Each one appears to be armed with the same type of plasma weapons we encountered, with their fleet." Hyunwoo almost smiled. The Vulcans had built their defenses to fight other species like themselves. They had no idea what was coming. "Take us to the edge of their defensive perimeter," he ordered. The Incheon moved slowly into the Vulcan system. On the planet below, billions of aliens went about their daily lives, unaware that death had come calling. The orbital defense platforms detected the human ship immediately. Alarm signals began broadcasting across all Vulcan military frequencies. This was an unknown vessel, clearly not of Vulcan design, approaching their most important world. Commander Zex stood in the control center of Defense Platform Alpha, the largest and most powerful of the orbital fortresses. He was a career military officer who had spent 30 years protecting the Vulcan homeworld. "Unknown vessel," he transmitted. "You are entering restricted space. Identify yourself immediately, or we will open fire." The response came back within seconds. "This is Captain Hyunwoo of the United Human Space Force ship Incheon. We are here to deliver a message to your government." Commander Zex had never heard of humans before. "What happened to the Third Fleet?" "They were supposed to be conquering your system 3 days ago." "The Third Fleet no longer exists," Captain Hyunwoo replied calmly. "That is part of our message." Commander Zex felt his blood go cold. The Third Fleet had been the pride of the Velkin military, 200 of their finest ships, commanded by Admiral Crix himself. How could they simply not exist anymore? Impossible, he said. Admiral Crix commands the most powerful fleet in Velkin space. Not anymore, the human said. On the surface of the Velkin homeworld, emergency meetings were being held in government buildings. The unexpected arrival of an alien warship had thrown the planet into chaos. Military leaders were demanding immediate action, while politicians argued about diplomatic responses. High Commander Vex, supreme leader of the Velkin military, studied the reports coming in from the orbital defenses. A single alien ship had somehow penetrated their outer security perimeter. The vessel appeared to be of unknown design and was refusing to leave. "What do we know about this ship?" he asked his intelligence officer. "Very little, sir. It claims to be from a species called humans. According to our records, humans are a primitive race from a system we designated for conquest. The Third Fleet was dispatched to deal with them 3 days ago." "And where is the Third Fleet now?" "Unknown, sir. We have had no communication from Admiral Crix since they entered the human system." High Commander Vex did not like the implications. Either the Third Fleet was delayed for some reason, or something had gone very wrong. The arrival of this human ship suggested the latter. "Order all defense platforms to surround the alien vessel," he commanded. "If they refuse to leave, we will destroy them." Commander Zex received his orders and began coordinating with the other platform commanders. 50 orbital fortresses began moving into position around the lone human ship. Each platform carried enough firepower to destroy a battleship. But Captain Hyunwoo was not impressed by the alien defenses. He had faced much worse odds just 3 days ago. "Lieutenant Ji-eun," he said, "target the nearest defense platform. 1 kinetic round, minimum power. Target acquired, sir. Firing." A single metal slug shot out from the Incheon at 12% of light speed. It struck defense platform Beta dead center, passing completely through the structure and continuing into space. The platform exploded in a ball of fire that was visible from the planet's surface. Commander Zex watched his fellow platform disappear and felt terror grip his heart. 1 shot. The alien ship had fired 1 shot and completely destroyed a fortress that had protected the homeworld for 50 years. "All platforms open fire," he ordered. 50 orbital defense platforms opened fire simultaneously. The space around the Incheon filled with plasma beams and particle bolts. For a moment, the human ship disappeared in a storm of energy. When the light faded, the Incheon was completely undamaged. Captain Hyunwoo sighed. The aliens never learned. They always assumed that more firepower would solve their problems. They never considered that their enemy might simply be immune to their weapons. "Return fire," he ordered. "Destroy all defense platforms." What followed was not a battle. It was an execution. The Incheon systematically destroyed every orbital defense platform in the system. Some were hit by kinetic rounds that vaporized them instantly. Others were cut apart by energy beams. A few were torn apart by gravitational forces. In 15 minutes, the orbital defenses that had protected the Velkin homeworld for generations were reduced to glowing debris. On the planet below, billions of Velkins watched their mighty defenses fall like dominoes. The alien ship had not even been scratched. Their most powerful weapons had been useless. High Commander Vex stood in his command center and watched his life's work being destroyed. The defense platforms represented decades of military construction. They were supposed to make the home world invincible. "Sir," his communications officer said with a trembling voice, "the alien ship is transmitting a message. They want to speak with our government leaders." "Put them through," Vex said quietly. Captain Hyunwoo appeared on the main viewing screen. He looked exactly as he had when speaking to Admiral Crix. Calm, professional, completely in control. "Hi, Commander Vex," the human said. "I am here to deliver a message from the people of Earth." What do you want?" Vex asked. 3 days ago, your Third Fleet entered our solar system without permission. They demanded our surrender and threatened to destroy us when we refused. They fired on a United Human Space Force vessel. "Where is the Third Fleet now?" "Destroyed," Captain Hyunwoo said simply. "All ships, all crews. Complete annihilation. No survivors." High Commander Vex could not believe what he was hearing. "That is impossible." Admiral Crix commanded 200 ships. 200 ships against one, the human agreed. The odds seemed overwhelming. Your admiral thought victory was certain. How? Vex whispered. Human technology, human training, human determination. Your people underestimated us. The journey back to Earth took 5 days. Captain Hyunwoo spent most of that time in his quarters, writing detailed reports about the first contact incident. Every detail had to be recorded. Every decision had to be explained. This battle would shape human policy for generations to come. On the bridge, Lieutenant Commander So Young was analyzing the sensor data from both engagements. The Vulcan ships had been surprisingly weak, their technology decades behind human standards. But that might not be true for other alien species. Captain, she said when Hyunwoo returned to the bridge, I have completed my analysis of alien technology levels. What did you find? The Vulcans appear to use basic fusion reactors and plasma-based weapons. Their ships are large but poorly armored. Their tactics rely on overwhelming numbers rather than superior technology. Hyunwoo nodded. That matches our observations. What concerns me is that they have ruled part of the galaxy for 300 years using such primitive technology. What does that say about the other species out there? It was a troubling thought. If the Vulcans could conquer dozens of worlds with their limited capabilities, then most alien species must be even weaker. Humanity might be the most technologically advanced civilization in the galaxy. Chief Science Officer Dong Hyun had been thinking about the same problem. Sir, he said, I believe we may have stumbled into a galaxy full of primitive species. The Vulcans mentioned conquering dozens of races, but they were shocked by our basic defensive systems. Meaning we might be alone in terms of technological development. Most species may still be using early industrial age technology. Chemical rockets, radio communications, basic nuclear weapons. The implications were staggering. Humanity had assumed they would be the weak newcomers in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations. Instead, they might be the most powerful species anyone had ever encountered. Medical Officer Young Soo had been monitoring the crew's psychological state during the return journey. The destruction of an entire alien fleet was not something to take lightly, even for trained military personnel. Captain, he reported, the crew is handling the situation well. No signs of post-combat stress or psychological trauma. However, I recommend extended shore leave when we return to Earth. Agreed, Hyunwoo said. This crew has earned a rest. But even as he said it, Hyunwoo knew there would be little rest for any of them. The encounter with the Vulcans was just the beginning. Word would spread through the galaxy about the new species that had appeared. Other civilizations would want to test human capabilities. Some would seek alliance, others would seek conquest. Navigator Yun-ji announced their arrival at the edge of the Sol system. Captain, we are approaching Earth space, requesting permission to return to home port. Permission granted. Take us home. The Incheon dropped out of hyperspace near Mars and began the final approach to Earth. The blue and white world hung in space ahead of them, beautiful and peaceful. It was hard to believe that this quiet planet was home to the galaxy's newest. Apex Predator. Earth Command had been monitoring the mission through regular communication updates. By the time the Incheon reached Earth orbit, the entire human government knew what had happened. The first alien contact had been hostile. Humanity had won decisively, and now the galaxy knew that humans existed. Admiral Park, commander of Earth's Space Forces, was waiting when Captain Hyunwoo reported for debriefing. The meeting took place in a secure facility deep beneath the capital city of New Geneva. Captain, Admiral Park said, your mission report makes for interesting reading. 200 alien ships destroyed with no human casualties. Yes, sir. The bias. Enemy was completely unprepared for our level of technology. And you believe this is typical of alien civilizations? Based on our observations, yes, sir. The Vulcans had ruled their part of the galaxy for centuries, but their technology was primitive by our standards. Admiral Park studied the tactical recordings of the battle. The destruction was complete and efficient. No wasted shots, no unnecessary destruction. The Incheon had fought like a surgeon with a scalpel, cutting away the alien threat with precision. Your decision to implement Protocol 7, Admiral Park said. That was controversial. Sir, the aliens had seen our capabilities. Allowing survivors To return would have compromised our strategic advantage. Explain. Captain Hyunwoo had thought about this question during the entire journey home. Sir, our strength lies in being underestimated. If the galaxy believes humans are weak, they will send small forces against us, forces we can easily defeat. But if they know our true capabilities, they will unite against us. We could face fleets of thousands of ships. Admiral Park understood. Fear was indeed a weapon, but it had to be used carefully. Too little fear and enemies would keep coming. Too much fear and they might band together in desperation. What is your recommendation for future policy? Admiral Park asked. Continue the policy of overwhelming response, Hyunwoo said. Any hostile action against humanity should result in the complete destruction of enemy forces. No survivors, no witnesses. Let the galaxy wonder what happened to their missing fleets. It was a harsh policy, but Admiral Park could see the wisdom in it. Humanity was outnumbered by potentially hostile aliens. Their only advantage was superior technology and the element of surprise. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, the effects of the Velkin defeat were already spreading. High Commander Vex had issued orders that no Velkin ship was to approach human space under any circumstances. The area around the Sol system was marked as forbidden territory on all navigation charts. But word of the defeat had leaked to other civilizations. The Krillian Empire, neighbors to the Velkins, had heard rumors about the destruction of the Third Fleet. Their intelligence services were trying to determine what had really happened. Ambassador Quinn of the Krillian Empire met with High Commander Vex in a secret location. The Krillians and Velkins had been enemies for decades, but the threat of this new human species made strange alliances necessary. Tell me about these humans, Ambassador Quinn said. High Commander Vex looked older than his years. The defeat had broken something inside him. They are not like any species we have encountered. Their technology is far beyond ours. Their tactics are ruthless. Surely you exaggerate. No single ship could destroy an entire fleet. Vex showed the ambassador recordings from the battle. Quinn watched in silence as Velkin ships were vaporized by weapons he could not understand. How many ships do they have? Quinn asked quietly. Unknown. We only encountered one vessel. But if that single ship is representative of their capabilities... Vex did not finish the sentence. Ambassador Quinn understood. If the humans had a fleet of such ships, they could conquer the entire galaxy. The established order of civilization was suddenly in question. What do you recommend? Quinn asked. Avoid them, Vex said simply. Mark their territory as forbidden. Hope they are content to stay in their own system. But even as he said it, Vex knew that hope was futile. Species with such overwhelming military superiority never stayed confined to one system. They expanded, they conquered, they ruled. Somewhere in the galaxy, a new empire was being born. Back on Earth, Captain Hyunwoo stood in his apartment and looked out at the city below. Millions of humans went about their daily lives, unaware that their species had just become the galaxy's newest superpower. Children played in parks. Adults worked in offices. Everyone assumed that Earth was safe and protected. They were right, but not in the way they thought. Earth was safe because humanity possessed the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. Earth was protected because human warriors were willing to destroy entire fleets to defend their home. Lieutenant Tae-min had been monitoring alien communication networks since their return. Captain, he reported during their regular briefings, we are detecting increased chatter across multiple alien civilizations. They are discussing the Velkin defeat and trying to determine what species was responsible. Let them wonder, Hyunwoo said. Uncertainty will make them cautious. Chief Science Officer Dong Hyun had been analyzing the strategic situation. Sir, based on our observations, I estimate there are approximately 50 major alien civilizations within our local galactic region. If they were to unite against us, then we would face them as we face the Velkins, Hyunwoo said calmly, one fleet at a time. It was a bold statement, but the captain believed it. Human technology was advancing rapidly. New weapons were being developed. Stronger ships were being built. If the galaxy wanted war with humanity, they would get it. But Hyunwoo hoped it would not come to that. The destruction of the Velkin fleet had been necessary, but he took no pleasure in it. War was a tool to be used when all other options failed. The ideal outcome would be for alien civilizations to recognize human strength and choose cooperation over conflict. Admiral Park had come to the same conclusion. In his final meeting with Captain Hyun-woo, he outlined humanity's new galactic policy. "We will continue deep space exploration," Admiral Park said, "but with military escorts, any hostile action will be met with overwhelming force. We will seek peaceful contact when possible, but we will not hesitate to defend ourselves. And if they try to unite against us, then we will show them why that would be a mistake." Captain Hyun-woo saluted his superior officer. Understood. The Great Hall of Nexus Prime was huge beyond words. Crystal walls reached up so high that the top was lost in shadows. Lights from 1,000 different worlds cast strange colors across the floor. This was where the Galactic Council met, and today they had something important to discuss. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their assigned seats. Some looked like giant bugs with too many arms. Others were made of living metal that shifted and changed. A few were just floating, balls of light that spoke without mouths. They had all come to talk about the same thing, the humans. Elder Vextar was the oldest being in the hall. His kind, the Kethmori, had been around for millions of years. Most of them were gone now, but Vextar remained. His body was thin and gray, like old tree bark. When he moved, it was slow and careful. His eyes had seen things that would drive younger minds crazy. Today, those ancient eyes were filled with worry. The council was busy arguing about Earth. The humans had just figured out how to travel faster than light. This meant they could now visit other star systems. It was always an exciting time when a new species joined the galaxy. But Vextar did not feel excited. He felt afraid. "The humans must follow our rules," said Counselor Thisera. She was from the Stellar Empire, one of the most powerful groups in the galaxy. Her voice was sharp and cold. "Every species must learn their place. The humans are no different." Other council members agreed. They nodded their heads or made whatever noise their species used to show agreement. The Galactic Council had rules for everything. New species had to follow these rules or face punishment, but Vextar knew something they did not. He had been alive when the first stargates were built. He remembered the time before the council existed. He knew secrets that others had forgotten. Slowly, Vextar rose from his meditation pod. The hall grew quiet. When the elder spoke, everyone listened. His voice was old and tired, but it carried power. "I have watched civilizations rise and fall for 10 million cycles," he said. "I have seen species that could move mountains with their thoughts. I have watched empires that ruled entire galaxies crumble to dust, but never, in all my long life, have I encountered a species like the humans." The council members looked at each other. Some whispered among themselves. Thisera made a sound that might have been laughter. "One small world," she said. "One primitive species? Elder, surely you worry about nothing. Our combined fleets number in the millions. What could one world do against us?" Vextar's old eyes grew sad. "You do not understand. The humans are not what they appear to be. They are dangerous in ways you cannot imagine. I beg you, do not test them. Do not push them. Let them be." But the council did not listen. They saw only a young species with simple technology. The humans had metal ships powered by chemical rockets. Their weapons were basic. Their computers were slow. To the council, they looked weak. "We will send them an invitation," decided Thisera. "They will come here and learn our ways. If they refuse, we will make them understand." Vexatar said nothing more. He sank back into his pod and closed his eyes. In his mind, he could see the future spreading out like a dark web. So many paths led to destruction. He prayed that someone, somewhere, would listen to reason before it was too late. Far away, on a small blue world called Earth, Captain Kyung-Soo Kim was having the best day of his life. He stood on the bridge of the starship New Seoul, watching Earth grow smaller through the main window. This was humanity's first real journey to the stars. Kyung-Soo was 35 years old and had trained his whole life for this moment. He was calm and smart, the kind of person others trusted to make hard decisions. His crew was the best Earth had to offer. Dr. Hannah Park stood beside him, studying readings on her tablet. She was the ship's expert on alien life. Her job was to help humans understand whatever they might find out there. Hannah was young, but brilliant. She had studied every piece of alien technology that had ever crashed on Earth. Commander Tae-Ho Lee checked the weapon systems for the third time that hour. He was responsible for keeping the ship safe. Tae-Ho was a careful man who planned for every possible danger. His dark eyes missed nothing. "Captain," called the communications officer. "We're getting a message from Earth. High priority." "Put it through," Kyung-Soo said. The face of Admiral Chen appeared on the main screen. The old man looked serious. "Captain Kim," the Admiral said, "we've received a formal message from something called the Galactic Council. They want to meet with representatives of humanity. You're being ordered to change course and head to coordinates they've provided." Kyung-Soo felt his stomach tighten. First contact with aliens was supposed to be humanity's greatest moment. But something in the Admiral's voice suggested this might not be good news. "What kind of message, sir?" Kyung-Soo asked. "The kind that sounds like an order, not an invitation," the Admiral replied. "Be careful out there, Captain. We don't know what we're dealing with." The transmission ended. The bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Hannah spoke up. "Captain, I've been studying the coordinates they sent. That location is at the center of what we thought was empty space. But our deep scans show massive structures there, bigger than anything we've ever built." Tae-Ho frowned. "It could be a trap. We should be ready for anything." Kyung-Soo nodded. "Set course for the coordinates, but keep our weapons ready and our sensors on full power. I want to know everything about these aliens before we meet them." While the new soul changed direction, Hannah worked in her lab below the bridge. She had been studying something strange for months now. All across Earth, in old ruins and ancient temples, archaeologists had found metal objects that did not belong. The objects were made of materials that did not exist on Earth. They were covered with symbols that looked like writing, but no human language used those symbols. Hannah had collected data on dozens of these objects. Tonight, as the ship traveled through space, she made a discovery that changed everything. The symbols on the alien objects matched symbols that the Galactic Council had used in their message. "How is this possible?" she whispered to herself. The objects on Earth were thousands of years old. Some were found in ruins that were built before humans invented writing. Yet they matched perfectly with symbols used by aliens that humanity had never met. Hannah ran test after test. She checked her data again and again, but the answer was always the same. These alien symbols had been on Earth for thousands of years. She thought about ancient stories from around the world. Every culture had legends about visitors from the sky. Gods who came down from the stars. Teachers who gave humans knowledge and then disappeared. What if those stories were not myths? What if they were memories? Hannah's hands shook as she typed her report. If she was right, then first contact was not really first contact at all. The aliens had been to Earth before. They had been watching humanity for a very long time. She sent her findings to Captain Kyung-Soo and then sat back in her chair. Through the small window in her lab, she could see the stars rushing past. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was waiting. They thought they were meeting a young primitive species for the first time, but Hannah was beginning to suspect that the truth was much more complicated than anyone realized. The aliens might know more about humanity than humans knew about themselves. As the new soul flew deeper into space, carrying Earth's hopes and fears with it, ancient eyes watched from the shadows of Nexus Prime. Vexatar had felt the human ship enter council space. The old being trembled with memories that went back to the beginning of time. The humans were coming home, and the galaxy was not ready for what that meant. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. Representatives from 1,000 worlds shouted at each other in hundreds of different languages. Some demanded war against the humans. Others begged for peace. A few had already packed their belongings and left for home. Counselor Thisra tried to maintain order, but her silver eyes showed fear. Reports kept coming in from across the galaxy. Human ships appeared near important worlds, scanned everything, and then vanished. They never attacked, but their presence was like a knife held to the throat of galactic civilization. "The humans have violated every law of space," shouted Ambassador Quental from the mining guild. "They entered our territory without permission. They studied our defenses. This is an act of war." "Then why are we still alive?" asked Senator Plixara from the Peaceful Worlds Alliance. "If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already." Elder Vextar listened to the arguments with growing sadness. These young species did not understand what they were dealing with. They saw the humans as invaders, as enemies. They could not accept the truth. "Enough," Vextar said quietly, but his voice carried power that made the entire hall fall silent. "You want to know what the humans are doing? They are deciding whether you deserve to live." The hall erupted in angry voices again, but Vextar continued speaking. "For millions of years, you have lived in a cage of your own making. You follow rules without question. You obey orders without thought. You have become safe, peaceful, and weak. The humans are everything you gave up to be civilized. The humans are savages," Thysera declared. "They refused our laws. They destroyed our fleet." "They are free," Vextar replied. "Something you have forgotten how to be." On the new Sol, Dr. Hannah Park was deep in a trance that would have looked like death to anyone watching. Her body lay still on a medical bed, while her mind traveled through networks of pure thought that connected human colonies across the galaxy. She was not alone in this strange space. Other humans moved through the network like schools of fish through an ocean of light. Scientists, soldiers, teachers, and farmers who had lived normal lives until the awakening began. Now they shared knowledge that had been locked away for millions of years. "The control network is vast," reported Dr. Jinne Song from the hidden colony on Kepler 442b. "Every alien species is connected to it. Their thoughts, their emotions, even their dreams are monitored and adjusted." "How long has this been going on?" asked Captain Kyung-Soo, his consciousness joining the meeting. "Since the Galactic Council was formed," replied Professor Wu-Jin Kang from the research station near Alpha Centauri. "Maybe longer. Someone has been guiding galactic civilization for millions of years, making sure it stays peaceful and predictable." Hannah felt sick as she absorbed the data. Every alien species in the galaxy had been changed at the genetic level. Their brains had been modified to reduce aggression, creativity, and independent thought. They were not evil, just limited. "But who did this?" she asked. "Who had the power to control an entire galaxy?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Commander Dalho Park, Hannah's own brother, spoke from his station on Mars. "We did," he said quietly. "The architects, our ancestors, they built this system to prevent another war like the one that almost destroyed everything." The network fell silent as the truth sank in. Humanity's ancestors had not just been advanced. They had been gods, and like all gods, they had tried to create a perfect world by controlling everything in it. "They became too powerful," Dalho continued. "They could reshape matter with thought, travel between dimensions, create life from nothing. But power like that corrupted them. They fought wars that broke reality itself. Entire star systems were erased from existence. So they limited themselves," Hannah said, understanding. "They became human. They gave up their power and hid among their own creations. Until now," Kyung-Soo added. "The attack on Earth woke us up. We're becoming what we used to be." Captain Yoon Ji-yoon spoke from her flagship in the Tau Ceti system. "The question is, what do we do with this power? Do we follow our ancestors' path and try to control everything, or do we find a better way?" On Nexus Prime, Elder Vextar made a decision that he had been avoiding for millions of years. He left his meditation pod and walked through corridors he had not seen in ages. His destination was a chamber that existed in the deepest part of the station, a place that even the council did not know about. The chamber was small and simple. In its center sat a device that looked like a crystal flower. This was the archive, the only remaining record of the time before the Great War. Vextar had guarded it for so long that he had almost forgotten why. Now he remembered. The crystal flower responded to his touch, filling the chamber with images of the past. Vextar saw the galaxy as it once was, full of wonders and terrors. He saw the architects at the height of their power, beings of pure thought who could reshape reality with a wish. He saw the war that followed, brother fighting brother, stars being born and dying in minutes. Entire regions of space twisted into impossible shapes. The survivors had been faced with a choice: destroy themselves completely or find another way. They chose to become something else. Something limited. Something human. But they had left safeguards. If their children ever faced a threat they could not handle, the old power would return. The attack on Earth had triggered those safeguards. Vextar touched the crystal again, and the images changed. Now he saw the present. Human ships moved through space like living things. Human minds touched the control network that had kept the galaxy peaceful for so long, and he saw the choice that humanity now faced. They could take control of the network, become the new rulers of the galaxy. Or they could do something that their ancestors had never dared to try. They could set everyone free. Back in the thought network, the human leaders were reaching the same conclusion. "We can't just take over," said Professor Wu Jin. "That would make us the same as our ancestors. We'd be gods ruling over slaves. But if we shut down the control network completely, the galaxy could tear itself apart," warned Commander Sungmin from his position near Proxima Centauri. "These species have been guided for millions of years. They don't know how to think for themselves." Hana felt the weight of the decision. In her mind, she could see the control network spreading across the galaxy like a web. Every alien mind was connected to it, dependent on it. Cutting those connections all at once could drive entire species insane. "We need to do it slowly," she said. "Wake them up gradually. Teach them how to be free again." "That could take thousands of years," Captain Unji pointed out. "Then we take thousands of years," Kyung-soo replied. "Freedom is worth the wait." Minho Choi joined the network from his command center on Earth. As the director of the Terra Defense Initiative, he had access to resources that even the other humans did not know about. "I've been monitoring Council communications," he reported. "They're planning something desperate. Thysera wants to activate the old architect weapons. She thinks she can use our own technology against us." "She doesn't understand," said Dr. Ginny. "Those weapons only respond to true architects. To use them, she would have to become like us," Hana finished. "She would have to unlock her own genetic potential." The thought was terrifying. If Thysera and others like her tried to awaken their architect heritage without proper preparation, the results could be catastrophic. They could become mad gods, drunk on power they did not understand. "We have to stop them," Kyung-soo said. "Not with force, but with truth. They need to understand what's really at stake here." Elder Vextar felt the human minds touching the edges of his consciousness. For the first time in millions of years, he was not alone with his secrets. The children had truly come home. He opened his mind to them, sharing everything he had hidden for so long. The true history of the galaxy, the location of hidden architect weapons, the codes that could shut down the control network safely, and most importantly, the knowledge of what lay beyond the galaxy's edge, the other powers that watched and waited, the threats that the control network had been built to keep out. "You are not the only children of the architects," he told them. "Others survived the Great War. Others chose different paths. Some became machines. Some became pure energy. And some became something that hungers for everything the architects created." "The Devourers," whispered Professor Wu Jin, accessing memories that had been locked away for millions of years. "They are coming," Vextar confirmed. "The awakening of Earth has sent ripples through dimensions they cannot ignore. The galaxy will face its greatest test soon. The question is, will you be ready to protect the children you are about to set free?" In the crystal halls of Nexus Prime, Counselor Thysera made her own terrible decision. She would not wait for the humans to decide the galaxy's fate. She would claim the power of the architects for herself. She did not know that such power came with a price that few minds could pay. Counselor Thysera stood before the sealed vault beneath Nexus Prime, her silver eyes blazing with determination and madness. Behind her, 12 loyal council guards waited for orders. They did not understand what their leader planned to do, but they would follow her into death itself. "Are you certain about this, Counselor?" asked Captain Veltar, the leader of her guards. "The humans may be willing to negotiate." "The humans are abominations," Thysera replied coldly. "They have rejected the natural order. They must be stopped, whatever the cost." The vault door was made of metal that did not exist anywhere else in the galaxy. It had been sealed by the architects themselves millions of years ago. Hidden behind it were weapons that could crack planets, reshape star systems, or erase entire species from existence. Thysera placed her hand on the scanner. For a moment, nothing happened. Then ancient systems that had slept for eons began to wake up. The door recognized something in her blood, some distant trace of architect heritage that all council species carried, but heritage alone was not enough. The door demanded more. It reached into her mind, searching for the genetic keys that would prove she was worthy of such power. Thysera felt something break inside her brain as the vault's security systems found what they were looking for. Pain, unlike anything she had ever experienced, shot through her skull. Her consciousness expanded suddenly, violently, as dormant genetic codes activated all at once. She screamed. Her guards rushed forward, but there was nothing they could do. Thysera's body began to change. Her blue-black skin took on a silver sheen. Her eyes became mirrors that reflected things that were not there. When she spoke again, her voice carried harmonics that made reality tremble. "I understand now," she said, and her words echoed in dimensions beyond the physical world. "I see what we could have been, what we should have been." The vault door opened. On the new Sol, Dr. Hannah Park screamed at the same moment. The awakening of Thysera sent shockwaves through the dimensional networks that connected all architect descendants. Every human in the galaxy felt it like a knife in their minds. "Something's wrong," Hannah gasped, clutching her head. "Someone's trying to force an awakening. The process is unstable. She's going to—" Captain Kyung-Soo felt it too. Through the thought network, he could sense the twisted presence that Thysera had become. She was no longer sane. The sudden awakening had driven her mind beyond the edge of madness. "All human forces," he broadcast across the galaxy, "converge on Nexus Prime immediately. We have a code black situation." Across the galaxy, human ships began moving faster than light itself. They traveled through space that folded like paper, taking shortcuts through dimensions that normal matter could not survive. The hidden colonies revealed themselves at last as hundreds of vessels emerged from their hiding places. Captain Yoon-ji-yoon brought her Pacific Fleet through the void between galaxies, using stargates that had been hidden since the beginning of time. Commander Sungmin Kang's Atlantic Division tore holes in space itself, stepping through portals that connected distant star systems. They were all racing to stop something that could destroy everything. Thysera emerged from the vault carrying a weapon that looked like a crystal sword made of compressed starlight. The null blade had been forged by the architects during their darkest hour, designed to cut through the fabric of reality itself. In the hands of a trained architect, it was a tool of precision. In the hands of a madwoman, it was an instrument of universal destruction. "Counselor," Captain Veltar said carefully, "perhaps we should return to the council chambers and—" Thysera looked at him with her mirror eyes. The guard captain simply ceased to exist. Not dead, not vaporized, but erased from reality as if he had never been born. The other guards backed away in terror. "Bring me the human ship," Thysera commanded, her voice causing the walls around them to crack. "I will end this threat once and for all." But the new Sol was no longer alone. As Thysera ascended to the main levels of Nexus Prime, she found herself facing not one human vessel, but dozens. They hung in space around the station like a constellation of living stars. Elder. Vextar appeared in the main chamber as alarms began sounding throughout the station. He looked at the transformed Thysera with ancient sadness. "You do not understand what you have done," he told her. "The awakening process requires careful preparation. To force it as you have is to invite madness." "I see clearly for the first time in my life," Thysera replied. "I see how you have all been made weak. How the humans have been allowed to return when they should have been destroyed long ago." "The humans are not our enemies," Vextar said. "They are our hope. They are chaos," Thysera snarled, "and chaos must be stopped." She raised the null blade and swung it at reality itself. Space tore open like cloth, revealing the swirling void between dimensions. Through the tier came things that should not exist, creatures of pure hunger that the architects had fought in the Great War. The Devourers had found a way in. Hana felt the dimensional breach open and knew they were out of time. The network of human minds that spanned the galaxy suddenly focused on a single task. They had to heal the damage Thyssera had caused before the Devourers could establish a foothold in normal space. "All ships, begin containment protocols," Captain Kyung-soo ordered. "We need to seal that breach before—" His words were cut off as the first Devourer emerged from the tear. It was a thing of shadow and hunger, a creature that existed only to consume. It had no physical form that normal eyes could see, but its presence made reality itself feel sick. The creature reached for Nexus Prime with appendages made of collapsed space. Where it touched the station, matter simply disappeared into nothingness. Thousands of aliens screamed as their world began to dissolve around them. Thyssera laughed with mad joy. "Yes! Burn it all! Cleanse the galaxy of weakness!" But Vextar was not helpless. The old being had survived the original war for good reason. He reached into his own genetic heritage, awakening powers he had kept dormant for millions of years. His ancient body began to glow with silver fire as he became what he had once been. "Thyssera," he said, his voice now carrying the full authority of an architect, "you will stop this madness." The two transformed beings faced each other in the heart of Nexus Prime while reality cracked around them. Thyssera swung the null blade at Vextar, but the Elder was ready. He caught the weapon bare-handed, his flesh burning with silver light. "You were right about one thing," he told her. "The galaxy has been weak for too long. But the answer is not destruction. It is growth." He turned his power not on Thyssera, but on the dimensional breach itself. Silver fire poured from his hands, sealing the tier between worlds. The Devourers that had begun to emerge were forced back into the void, but the effort was too much for his ancient body. Vexatar began to fade, his life force burning away to power the seal. "Tell the humans," he whispered as his form became transparent. "Tell them that the children, all the children, deserve to be free." He vanished, taking the dimensional breach with him. Thyssera stood alone in the ruined chamber, the null blade falling from her nerveless fingers. The madness was leaving her as suddenly as it had come, replaced by the terrible understanding of what she had almost done. Captain Kyung-soo materialized beside her, having transported directly from his ship. He looked at the broken counselor with something that might have been pity. "It's over," he said quietly. Thyssera fell to her knees. "I could have destroyed everything. The hunger in the void, it called to me, made me think that destruction was the answer." "The Devourers are like that," Kyung-soo replied. "They whisper to anyone with architect blood, trying to turn us against each other. That's why the control network was built, not to enslave, but to protect." Across the galaxy, the work of liberation began, but it was not the violent revolution that some had feared. Instead, human scientists and doctors worked with willing alien volunteers to gradually remove the genetic modifications that had kept them docile for so long. Dr. Hannah Park established medical centers on a dozen worlds, where alien beings could choose to reclaim their natural heritage. The process was slow and careful, designed to awaken their minds without driving them insane. Commander Tae-ho Lee created the new Stellar Defense Corps, training volunteers from every species to protect the galaxy from the threats that waited in the void. No longer would one race rule over others. They would stand together as equals. Minho Choi coordinated the revelation of truth to populations across the galaxy. Ancient histories were uncovered. Hidden technologies were shared freely. The cage of false peace was opened, and its prisoners stepped out into a larger universe. On Earth, children played in parks while their parents looked up at stars that no longer seemed distant and cold. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not as conquerors, but as gardeners. They would help other species grow into what they could become. Captain Yoon Ji-yoon established the first truly integrated colony on New Harmony, where humans and aliens worked together to build something that had never existed before, a free society of truly equal beings. Commander Sungmin Kang led exploration fleets to the edges of known space, always watching for signs of the Devourer's return. The enemy was patient, but so were the children of the architects.